them. And we have one sponsor. Our sponsor is iBudokan, and this certainly couldn't have happened without the support from iBudokan. And iBudokan makes high quality videos, Aikido videos and Aikido weapons videos, as well as other martial arts videos for your mobile devices. And they put together great reference material for your practice. You can find Taijutsu, Bukiwaza, Ukemi practice with Yandavilia Sensei, Christian Tissia Sensei's app is there too. And just full disclosure, I am on the board of iBudokan, but that's not the only reason that I'm promoting iBudokan. They're doing great work, and their apps are here to support your practice. There are free versions that you can download. Just go over to the App Store, check it out. You can download the free ones, check it out. If you like it, you can get the other apps. And those apps are there to support your practice by getting the iBudokan apps. You support iBudokan and their good work, and they turn around and support us and our good work, and we turn around and we support you. It's a big, beautiful circle of life, and win-win all around. iBudokan.com, or just go to the App Store and look for iBudokan. Great, so here we are today. Without further ado, I want to welcome you all to this panel discussion on Is Aikido a Martial Art? Today we have Lenny Sly joining us from, Lenny's actually from, let's just give his virtual address. He's having the biggest impact on YouTube. It's his YouTube channel is called the Rogue Warriors channel, and he's probably one of the fastest growing Aikido channels on YouTube. And Lenny is absolutely crushing it over there. Open your mic. Hey, Lenny, how you doing? Can you hear me, Lenny?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing, man?
Great. How are you doing today?
Very, very good. Great to have you with us. And we'll be right back. I'm going to go over to Roy Dean. Roy Dean, your mic's open. How are you doing, Roy?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Also, Roy Dean is of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fame, but Roy Dean is also an Aikido black belt and has a lot to say about Aikido. And I'm really happy that he's here. And Roy Dean also has you can check Roy Dean out at roydean.tv, and he also has a YouTube channel called Roy Dean YouTube channel. Also, I want to welcome Corky Quakenbush. Hey, Corky, how you doing?
Hey, Miles. How are you?
Very good. I'm very happy to have you here with us today. And also, Roy, Corky, I don't have your website in front of us. Can you just give us the address of your website?
It's westlosangelesaikido.com.
Great. So you want to find out more about Corky, go over to westlosangelesaikido.com. And Vince Salvatore. Just a moment, Vince. I have to open your mic. I've got to find you. Right there he is. Vince Salvatore of Reno Aikido. How you doing, Vince?
Hello, Miles. Hello, everyone. I love you all.
Great. Very appropriate for today's topic. So before we get started, I just want to say a couple of things. The evolution of civilization. We've come a long way from the caveman days. One way to look at it is nothing less than a series of successful conversations. We're all different people. We all have different ideas. We all have different preferences. We all have different likes and dislikes. And, often we talk across each other. Often we talk against each other. But really, when we want to evolve together, we want to bring this conversation forward as a global community. Of course, we can allow all kinds of perspective, but let's see if we can have a successful conversation. The second thing I want to say is today's topic is intentionally meant to be
Controversial.
Thank you, Lenny. That's the word I was looking for.
I'm all about that.
Yeah, you are. It's a hot topic. It's been a hot topic forever, and and there's a whole spectrum there. It is a martial art or it isn't a martial art, and we're going to kind of cover that spectrum. But my belief in Aikido, my fundamental belief in Aikido, is that the whole point of Aikido, it's with Aikido, it's the way of harmony. But to be honest, if there's harmony, we don't need Aikido. The field of practice is the field of conflict, and that's where we actually take our Aikido in, where you have one perspective and another perspective, or one view, another view, that cannot occupy the same place at the same time. And we have everything inside of us is saying fight it or run away for it or whatever, and that's the path of Aikido. And when we enter that type of conversation, that type of dialectic, Usually we kind of evolve out of it. So I'm sure that no matter what happens today, we're going to come out with some very, very interesting evolution. So without further ado, Roy, your screen has popped up in front of me. So let's start with Roy. Let's just go through the panel once. If you could give me a very short, your short take. Is Aikido a martial art? Roy Dean.
Definitely. Very different. It might have meditative aspects. It might have, physical health aspects similar to yoga, but Aikido is a martial art. Perhaps not a complete martial art, but it is definitely a martial art.
Great. Is there a complete martial art?
I think the more complete you make it, the less deep you go. And so there's kind of a weird, I think that's why these specializations emerge, whether it's in boxing, boxing is more evolved than kickboxing, because you have more tools. And so I think the fewer tools you have, the sharper they can get. And there are complete martial arts, but then again, I don't feel a lot of those complete martial arts go very deep into each area, So it's kind of, I don't know. I just think that a complete martial art is hard to come by.
Great, it's very good. Okay, so back in the day in Japan, they had this term. It's called Kodo Budo. Kodo means comprehensive, a comprehensive martial art. And if you look back then, we're talking hundreds of years ago, the so-called Kodo Budo didn't look anything like MMA. So that's my big question. Can we ever find a complete martial art? But cool, thanks. Let's go over to Vince Salvatore. Your take, is Aikido a martial art?
I think so. Yeah, when I signed up, there was like there's a ballet studio down the street. There was different other things, different activities. But yeah, I got involved with it because it was a martial art.
How old were you?
What's that?
How old were you?
I'm the same old age as you, Miles.
No, when you started.
Oh, yes. Well, I saw it when I was younger. I didn't start till I was 17.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. In regards to it being complete martial art, I mean, how many people on the panel? Everybody's got a different opinion about what's complete, Am I complete as an individual? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm still developing as a human being, and so is my Aikido. So, yes, I believe it's a martial art.
Great.
But I guess we'll get into that a little deeper.
Great, Vince. Toda. All right, Corky Quakenbush, your take. Is Aikido a martial art?
Well, I think it's interesting. I haven't heard anyone say it's not a martial art yet. So how are we going to have this conversation? No, I think that I'm going to take something from Paul Linden's playbook, and say before we can really answer that question, we have to know what everybody means by a martial art.
All right.
And
so
if the
I'll
martial art, yes.
We will answer that question, but
Okay.
we'll ask that question. But you go ahead, continue.
Well, by my definition, it is a martial art, because my definition of a martial art is a system of activity that's designed to prevent damage to the artist from an attack, from the damage or control that's put across by an attacker. So in that sense, I believe that Aikido is a martial art.
Awesome. Okay, so I will point out that also, Budo in Japanese, the word bu means martial, but inside of that meaning is a morally good. There's kind of a moral goodness to martial. So doing martial for the right reason, for a good reason. Great. Lenny Sly, is Aikido a martial art? Welcome, man.
Thanks for having me. Well, it's 4 for 4. Yeah, I definitely think Aikido is a martial art. I've been studying martial arts since I was 9 years old. I'm 46. And I've yet to find a martial arts system that isn't a martial art, regardless if it's complete or not. So I've trained in several different forms of martial arts, and I look at martial arts, period, as a form of self-defense, regardless of the spiritual side and everything else that goes hand in hand with it. But basically, I look at Aikido as a self-defense martial arts system for people to basically protect themselves. That's how I look at it, as a martial art.
Cool. Okay, so we'll talk about the spectrum from self-defense to sport. So we'll kind of go into that in a minute. But like Corky was saying, that let's ask everybody, what do you mean by martial art? And we'll just start with Lenny, since you just finished.
What do I mean by martial art? For me, martial arts is about self-defense. That's what it's about. I mean, yeah, it should better you as a human being, and obviously you should learn. If you learn a martial art, you don't use it for evil purposes. You use it for self-defense, to protect yourself, your loved ones, or people that cannot protect themselves, by helping them. If you see somebody on the street being attacked, I would never turn my back in a million years on somebody. As most of you already know, if you've seen my interview with Edgar Ortega, I openly discuss my history with being a bouncer for 23 years. Okay, I wasn't a bouncer because I liked to work in bars to where I got into fights. I liked to work in bars, first off, because I'm not a drinker. Okay, I don't drink alcohol. It was great to be able to go out and socialize. I was a part of an establishment. Usually I've worked at a lot of places in Chicago that were usually, some of them are closed down now, but back over the years, they were pretty popular. So it was a good hangout place. You get to meet a lot of people. I made a lot of friends. And I worked there. I worked at a lot of the bars I worked at to protect the people that I worked with. If anybody has been a bouncer before, you're usually running to the problem rather than running away from the problem. Mm-hmm. So I like the fact that I could be a part of something and protect people from, obviously, people that get intoxicated. You can't really reason with people that are intoxicated. It's impossible to reason with somebody like that. And usually, when altercations would happen, a lot of the times the fights wouldn't happen with somebody that was intoxicated versus another person that was intoxicated. The majority of situations that I've been involved in, usually with people that were completely sober, but somebody else bumped into a friend and spilled a drink, and fights started happening. I would be running to that when people were trying to get away from it.
Cool. So you use your martial art to enter into a situation to protect those that your friends, people that you care about, of course, your loved ones.
Absolutely.
Your friends, or those who are not or maybe the person who's starting it, you're fine with applying your martial technique to stop them.
You actually kind of broke up on that last part. Can you say it one more time?
Well, I mean, you were talking about protecting those, your loved ones, the people that you care about that are kind of in your circle, and somebody on the outside of that circle, the fight, conflict, you and using martial art to stop them.
Yes. From what I heard from what you just said, yes. Your screen keeps freezing up. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that.
Let me see what
There was a little glitch. There was a little glitch.
Yeah, it's breaking up, Miles.
All right, I'm going to close down a couple of things here, see if it works.
Look like better. Max Headroom.
We're all old enough to remember that one. Vince, what does martial art mean to you?
Well, I thought it was interesting what Lenny just said, because I remember a friend of mine, his name is Peyton Quinn, and he talked about a cooler, which I think is more along the lines of an Aikidoist, is you're cooling down the situation. And I was just wondering to Lenny, is that what you kind of mean? Like, were you de-escalating the situations, or are you just going in there and, whipping people's butts, or like?
No, it wasn't. Yeah. No, it wasn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were times that you're running into a situation where it's a full out brawl. You got 5 guys on 5 guys. I mean, stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
And they're brawling. It's like you're running into that to break it up. Obviously, I mean, being a bouncer for 23 years, I mean, there's a fine line with what we're allowed to do when you're employed by an establishment as a security personnel. You can't start hauling off and start punching me. You have every right to protect yourself. You have every right to protect the employees of the establishment. If people start engaging on you and throwing punches, it's not, I have to wait for somebody to hit me in the face before I can defend myself. If they're attacking you, you have every right to defend yourself, and we would. I wasn't that guy that pummeled people. I've worked with guys that have done that. where they literally just pummeled somebody from a situation like that. But basically we would get involved to break up the fight, separate the parties, and basically deal it from, from that standpoint. But there were times that you had to go in there and you had to take care of business. Otherwise more people were going to get hurt.
But you found like an Aikido kind of mindset, body set, or technique wise, that kind of helped you, because you're not going to haul off with a side kick, blast the guy into a wall. You were doing more stuff where you're trying to neutralize the aggression. If I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but is that
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I've used a lot of Sankyo techniques and Nikkyo techniques, and with the style of Aikido that I do, we incorporate Yubidori, which are finger grabs. Those are very good pain compliance type of, not exactly, but they're very good pain compliance techniques to be able to handle a situation, to get somebody to stop escalating or to de-escalate, for lack of better words, the violent side of it. I mean, there's nothing nice about a barroom brawl. There's nothing nice about it. It's always ugly.
Well, real fights, don't you think? I mean, who really wins in a real fight? I mean,
no one does.
Yeah,
no one. Honestly, nobody ever wins in that type of a fighting situation. Nobody wins, because you could be held accountable. Me being the bouncer, I've never been, out of 23 years, I've never been arrested. I've never been sued civilly for anything that I've done working at these establishments. The last establishment that I worked for was, I don't know how many of you guys would know about this, but it was called Toby Keith's I Love This Bar and Grill. There were 19 establishments all over the United States. Are you familiar with it?
No.
Let's stay. Look, I still want to hear Vince's take on martial art. Vince, what's a martial art?
Yeah.
Well, Miles, that's what you need to do. You need to keep me on track, all right? I agree. That's part of Aikido. You need to focus. You need to stay with one thing at a time, and that's one of the main things that I think you learn in a martial art. Is the first thing you learn how to focus. You learn how to focus, and I like the focus of Aikido. I believe it is a martial art. With what Lenny was just saying, I see he's totally an Aikido. So he was in there going in, neutralizing aggression rather than adding to the aggression. And I'm totally in accord with everything he just said. From my point of view, I didn't do that type of work. Well, actually I did once, but I did see a big brawl happen. I was like, wow, I'm only getting, this is a little stint I did when I came back from Japan for a quick time. For me, I thought like, my gosh, I am not getting paid enough to do something like this. And I had a little baby at the time. My 27-year-old son, he was a little baby at the time. And I was like, man, what happens if I get my head cracked and my wife has to do everything? So anyway, but I do believe it's a martial art, and you're dealing with conflict. The thing I love about it is the uke-nage relationship. You're not two combatants. Kind of like what Lenny said again is he wasn't a combatant. He was going in there and he was neutralizing the aggression. I see that as the role of a nage.
I think self-protection as a martial art is incredibly important. And I think where Aikido really excels is in its ukemi. Like, Aikido ukemi is basically unparalleled in the martial arts. I mean, in Hapkido, they have their own style. In Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, they have their own style. In Aikido, they have their own style. In Judo, they have their own style. But I really feel like the ukemi in Aikido is some of the best, some of the most sophisticated out there. And in that sense, it really excels as a method of self-protection, because that's ultimately the most practical aspect, I feel, of martial arts. On the other hand, maybe you guys saw the video with is it Rokas? Is it?
Yeah, right.
And we've just been in contact briefly. I'm looking forward to doing a little bit of work with him. And I mean, what's your thought on the Aikido versus MMA and his performance in that? And what's because I mean, I see Aikido excelling in some areas. For example, ukemi, which makes it definitely martial art, in some ways more practical. Like the ukemi in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is like not that great, to be honest. and then you have kind of an ineffectiveness against somebody who had a well-rounded skill set in the mixed martial arts fight. So what's your opinion on that? Go.
What
Exactly. YouTube video by Rokas, but what is it? Aikido?
Yeah, Aikido versus MMA. It got like a couple 100,000 views in the last couple
In a
days.
very short period of time. Yeah, I actually, he just emailed me the other day and asked me my opinion about that. Plus, probably the same thing with you. He wants to do some work with me on a couple videos. It was interesting. It was very interesting because it clearly showed, from my perspective, because like I said, I've studied other martial arts, that he is obviously an Aikidoka because he had no idea how to handle the person that he was doing this video with, the way how the guy was coming at him, just even with just the sparring aspect of it, it looked like
he's been doing Aikido for like 10 years, and shouldn't he be more prepared than that? I would, someone, I mean, or doing traditional training method, it's okay.
I agree with you, Dean. I mean, he should have been a little bit more prepared for it, but I mean, I didn't see anything. Like, he was just the way how he was trying to handle the MMA guy. I mean, I understand that they were friends, and this obviously was like an experiment because of all the talk that you've been doing with Josh Gold and stuff like that with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Aikido, the things that you guys got going on. When I watched that video, I was sitting there watching it, and quite honestly, I am pretty big on YouTube, and that YouTube video did not do us any goddamn justice as a martial art.
Oh my God, I couldn't disagree. I couldn't disagree with you more, Lenny. I couldn't disagree with you more. I think that actually put Aikido up, because it's
really
Aikido. It should be a yes. Oh, that's interesting. Not blocking, but blending and accepting.
There was no blending there. Come on, Dean. Let's get real. There was no blending there.
Yeah.
Dude, the blending was the experimentation and trying it out, and he deserves props for that.
Oh, I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve props for it, but the thing that I saw with that was I didn't see any Aikido being demonstrated whatsoever. It didn't look like he knew what he was doing against that guy.
Is that a failure of him, or is that a failure of the art?
I think it's a failure of him. Lack of experience.
I think it's failure of the art. I think it's failure of the art. I think that he should have had a training method that will allow him to adapt to evolving circumstances.
So wait, you're Lenny says it's a failure of Rokas and his training, and you're saying it's actually a failure of the art. And what was it exactly about the failure of the art, where Aikido is limited?
If there had been enough prep, and not just prepping for that particular situation, but for basically any situation, for Takemusu Aiki, for spontaneously manifesting techniques given any situation.
Pardon me for 1 second. What are the rules of engagement? That's what I want to know on this teleconference, and I would take that into the situation that Rokas had.
All right, Vince, go.
Oh, can I go?
Yeah.
So how should we go from now on? Should somebody raise their hand, or can anybody ask a question? I want to know what the rules of engagement are.
The rules of engagement, it's a barroom brawl. Go.
Okay. All right.
No, actually, Vince is going to say something, and then we're going to go to Corky.
Well, I would just say what I said to you. What are the rules of engagement? I think that's one of the things that separates Aikido from a lot of things. Roy, it looks like you're looking at it from two combatants. In Aikido, that's not the relationship. The Nage is trying to neutralize conflict. Rokas entered into a cage match. They had rules. They're not trying to hurt each other. It was kind of cute. They're just kind of like dancing around. The guy was holding back. If it was a real self-defense situation, I mean, how would you coach him? What should he do? For me, every situation is totally different. If the guy was jumping on his wife, beating his wife, I don't think Rokas would move in and do things the way he did. He might pick up a chair and crash it across his head. You do what's appropriate in the moment. But when you're talking about, what I see it is, some of the slights or where people are coming from criticism, I'm looking at the relationship. And that is two combatants. That's not what Aikido is based on. The whole beauty of Aikido is you're a Nage, you're the defender at the basic level. At the higher level, you're supposed to develop yourself so that when a conflict situation does happen, you're coming in to neutralize the situation. And you're not a combatant. That's a different relationship. That's like playing tag or something like that.
Great.
And,
Vince, okay, so let's give a little bit of time to Corky here. Corky, I don't know if you saw this video. It was basically Aikido versus MMA, and for sure, the one thing we can say about that video is that it started a big conversation. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. And I haven't seen the video, so I can't really comment on that specifically. But I gathered that that Rokas, the Aikido person, failed to perform as adequately as the MMA person. Is that the idea?
That's the idea.
Okay. Well, and I'm with Vince on this because, pardon me?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm with Vince on this because, you know, there's a tendency to want to look at Aikido in relationship to the sporting types of fighting. And that to me is kind of not where it's all about, because I'm never going to go into a ring. I'm 61 years old. I'm not really interested in competing with anyone or proving that Aikido works. However, I've been unlucky enough in my life to have been attacked on a few different occasions, and often from people with deadly intent. And I feel that Aikido really shines above other martial arts because it moves toward a resolution in which there is full resolution, rather than one person dominating another person for the temporary amount of time that it takes for a fight to ensue, and that the consequences of that moment are complete rather than going into the next thing.
Okay, so Corky, so I want to go here with you on this one. We're going to change direction a little bit. But before I do that, I just want to read Nathaniel Chalkin. Roy, do you know Nathaniel Chalkin? He also
We've corresponded.
Aikido, also BJJ. He says he agrees with you. It's a failure of an art. He compares that doctors don't use leeches anymore. That there is no sport until you evolve, which forms are functional via live sparring. It's a scientific method. So back to Corky. Corky, violence. Let's talk about violence, because you got the martial side, which deals with violence, and you got the art side, which is something else. So violence, and I know that I don't want to kind of label you here, but we've talked before.
Well, wait a minute, Miles. You didn't address if it's a sport or not. Aikido isn't a sport.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
BJJ is a sport. Aikido is not a sport.
That is an art that is practiced. It can be practiced as a sport.
It can be, yeah.
Well, when Rokas went into the ring with the guy, was he going as a sport, or was he going in for survival?
He was going as a sport.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
But I mean, let's be real. Come on. If it had been survival.
That is real.
If it had been survival, he would have died.
Not necessarily. Had it been survival, he might have. No, wait a minute. Had it been survival, he may not have gotten in the ring. You know, this is a serious consideration. You know, these are choices that we make that lead to these things. It isn't suddenly that we're suddenly placed in a life and death situation that we.
You know,
yeah.
But you arrive at the dojo to meet and explore more about yourself. Yeah. This was just another example of that. Yeah. But it was pressure testing. It was a little bit more pressure testing.
Pressure test, exactly.
And
no, it isn't. It's not pressure testing. The whole relationship's different. The whole relationship's different.
No, but what happened?
You're coming from a sport perspective. That's two opponents.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't come from a sport perspective though. You're making a false assumption.
Hang on just a second. So I agree with Roy. I don't know if you saw the video, Vince, but basically what happened as Rokas went into the ring with his friend who was an MMA guy, he was pressure tested and he kind of collapsed into competition, and he had no chance against the guy.
He collapsed. Period.
Yeah. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, that's two people. They agree to go in the ring. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to gouge your eyes. Your sister's not going to jump over the ring and come in and do whatever.
Wouldn't it be great to not have to go to hypotheticals, though? Wouldn't it be great to be able to compassionately contain and control him, kind of like the ideal of Aikido, to be able to hold and care for that individual with as much scalability in your force as you need.
Well, Roy, can you do that with anybody?
Many people, but not everybody.
Well, see, that's the point. There's going to be someone for everyone that is going to turn us into Rokas.
Of course. I mean, yeah, dude, that's the way it is. Yeah, for
Right,
sure.
but-
Absolutely.
And thank God, huh? Thank God that's how we grow.
No, I mean, yeah, and that's why the humility is so important.
Yeah, right. So
Well,
listen,
what if Rokas pulled out a knife and stabbed him in the heart and killed him? And
Okay,
everybody
so
said,
let's-
"Oh, wow."
Yeah.
All right, but-
Dude,
Yeah,
think
yeah,
really,
guys-
Vince, with
yeah,
all,
kid
like,
guys
think
violence.
about how far you're going. Think about how far you're going in your arguments in order to come back to some kind of mental justification for why it didn't perform.
Oh, I disagree. I think that
I wasn't
Vince
in the
has
ring.
Vince
I
has
wasn't in
his
the ring. Rokas was.
yeah, and I think Vince is talking about really a specific important aspect of this conversation. Is are we talking about someone who chooses to compete with someone else, which this is clearly a choice of competition?
Is it competition or is it honing your technique?
Well, if you go into something with the idea that I'm going to prevail here, right? But if that's your idea, that's a competition. If you go into something with the ideal that this is going to provide a resolution to a conflict, that's a different conversation. So if someone chooses to go into a ring to test their skills, to pressure test their skills, that's valid in that regard. But it's not a life or death situation. And it's not something designed to resolve a conflict. It's something to resolve a conflict in someone's mind. Can I stand up to this competitor?
No, it's an ego thing. Who wins? That's Aikido is not based on winning. I
think you have to win in order to extend compassion.
all right, so right there.
That's your opinion.
All right, so hang on, Vince. Hang on. All right, so here's what I want to get. Rather than talking about scenarios and what could and what wouldn't, let's get down to the issue of violence. Okay, now I want to go back to Corky because I know Corky's and again, I don't want to label you here, Corky, but we've spoken in the past. You kind of believe in ahimsa, and you believe
Yes, right.
that I to resolve violence, not to stop it, perpetuate it, whatever.
That's
So-
always been its value to me.
All right, what is Aikido's value in terms of violence?
Yeah, well, I see it as the primary function of martial arts. I mean, when you look at the art of
All
war,
martial arts?
yeah, really. I
What,
mean,
to-
real
wait.
martial arts
What's the function?
is to prevent violence.
Prevent?
This is prevent violence. Yeah,
Okay.
Budo, stopping the spear.
Okay.
You know, these ideas that all these martial arts that we practice originated from defense. We talked about that, right?
Okay.
There's very few of them that originate in how do I attack someone who's a victim? How do I attack someone who's weaker than me?
I couldn't disagree more, Corky. I'm pretty sure that these were designed to defend your family by killing the other guy.
Oh, yeah, I know. But this is, again, defending your family. This is a defense. Martial arts are built on defense.
Right, but built for defense
Yeah.
through offense.
Well, there's three basic ways people defend themselves. Okay, they either attack back, they put up a wall or a shield, defending, resist, or they run away. These are
Or they
basic
do a
to
video
all.
on YouTube, Aikido versus MMA.
Yeah, well, that's competition, but it's not really the function of a martial art.
That's a
to put a
joke.
YouTube up on. Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is that, you know, when you think of it that way, attack back is certainly defense. And also attack forward is defense if you think your territory is threatened or you think some danger is coming toward you, but it's still in response to an idea of conflict. Now, there are some people who do go out looking for trouble, and that's been historical, okay? Martial arts have been designed not only for the purpose of attacking for defense, but those defense tactics are used to attack other people. There's no doubt about it. But when you come into the idea of Budo, it's really for when those spears are coming out, how do we stop those spears? And in Aikido, it is an interesting proposition that you can stop those spears without the consequence continuing forward.
So,
You know,
so this is what you mean by resolving, by not just stopping the violence and perhaps perpetuating it for another day, but actually resolving it.
Yeah. I mean, the times that I've been attacked on the street, it's been very interesting to me because I never hurt anybody. I've never even done an Aikido technique, although Aikido has certainly come into play. But at the end of several of these circumstances, the person who attacked me ended up saying, hey, thanks a lot. It's great meeting you. And, you know, I'm sorry to have bothered you. You know, to me, this is the end of the conversation because there's been a real resolution. Someone hasn't been landed on the ground or in a hospital or in the arms of a policeman or anything like this that has perpetuated somebody's part of the conflict. And to me, that's the value of Aikido. Not that it's not valuable to win a fight and survive, but the real value of Aikido is that it gives us an option to come up with a conclusion in which there are no winners and losers, that everyone feels like the conflict has resolved and there's no leftovers.
So it moves more towards wholeness rather than separation. Let's check with Lenny. Lenny, jump in.
You really want me to jump in on this part of the conversation?
Okay, let's go. Lenny.
The shit that I'm hearing right now is all this philosophical.
Go, Lenny, go! Go, Lenny, go!
Break, please.
Oh, this is not philosophical. This is not philosophical. This is my experience.
You get attacked on the street with somebody with pure intention to cause great bodily harm to you. I've been there. I've seen it. Aikido, yes, it works if you know how to make it work. The Aikido stopped evolving technically in 1969 when O-sensei passed away. People have changed the way how they fight, the way how they attack. It is 2017. You look at, for example, the New England Patriots who just won the Super Bowl. You put them back in 1976 when the Pittsburgh Steelers were at the top of their game. Who do you think would win that game? The Patriots would stomp them completely. Why? Because football, sports, all that stuff has evolved. Aikido has not evolved to modern times. People, how they attack today on the streets is not the same how it was back in the hippie era in 1969.
I don't know. I think there are firearms, definitely. I mean, some of my attackers have had firearms. So,
I'll hold it for another topic too, because I'm very well versed in firearms. Okay, it's completely different than that. On top of that, okay. So,
well, that's what we say when we go into real life scenarios. Like Vince was bringing up, what if Rokas had a knife? What if somebody had a knife?
I agree whatever. With that, though. What if he had that? You know, but weapons are equalizers. You have somebody in the street that's dominating you, and you have a right to defend yourself. This guy is pummeling you. And if you're in fear for your life, I'm a concealed carry holder. I can legally carry a gun. If I'm in fear for my life by the state of Illinois, I can draw my weapon and fire if I feel pure intention on that person's part to commit violence or to take my life. I have the right to defend myself. Okay.
Where's that?
You got a guy.
Where's that going though? Where's that going?
Kicking your ass. You know, you got Urlacher smoking you on the street. You know, I'm going to do whatever it takes to survive. And like, I believe what Vince was saying, it's not about winning or what you were saying. It's about survival. That's exactly what it's about. It's about survival. And Dean, I mean, you have several black belts in other systems. You're very educated in martial arts with jiu-jitsu and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you know, and Aikido. You have a different, you have a different skill set and craft above most of us, above 90% of us, because of your Brazilian jiu-jitsu background and your other jiu-jitsu background on top of that, that a lot of the Aikidoka that train don't have that.
Great. So let's go to Roy. I want to get Roy to comment on this, but I also want to tell the people viewing, we have about 82 people on the call today. If you want to jump in, if you have a question, raise your hand. You can go to the screen on the side, click participants at the bottom here. Your screen will drop down. You can raise your hand, and we'll try to bring you in the call. Roy.
Yeah.
So I think everybody agrees that survival is a bottom line.
Oh, well, can I ask one question though of Lenny? Does this mean you're carrying a weapon as Aikido?
No. We're moving to Roy. So we agree that violence, that self-protection, survival is a bottom line, but is it the only bottom line in Aikido?
No. Aikido offers a lot more. I feel Aikido offers a lot more.
It's more complete.
Hang on, Roy.
I think the aspiration is much higher in Aikido. I think it's the ideal Budo. As Kano said when he observed Mordecai Ueshiba, that's the real, that's true Budo. That's like the ultimate in blending and efficiency. So, I mean, I do think that Aikido offers a lot more than just the physical, but I think the physical needs to be bolstered a little bit. And to Lenny's point, yeah, people fight differently. You watch street fight videos, guys will go for a double leg takedown. I just watched a video the other day. The guy did double leg. The guy who was getting double leg broke his arm very badly on the concrete, and ended up losing the fight. And so I think things need to evolve a little bit. Like, okay, let's understand what a double leg tackle is, the classic wrestling technique. People do attack differently. Coming up with Aikido responses for new kinds of attacks, I think this is all good. I think this is part of the physical evolution, which will bolster the moral argument and all the other and all the richness that Aikido offers. I think because right now it's just something's a little off, and people aren't sure what that is.
48 years of evolution is off, right? That's what's off since O-sensei passed away. How has Aikido grown to evolve?
Actually, even before he passed away, it was off. Because, listen, Mochizuki asked him, because when Mochizuki went over to, Mochizuki asked him after his demo in France, what do I do about these different attacks that are coming in that are non-standard?
Train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
What? No, that's not necessarily the answer. But O-sensei was like, he was not concerned.
May I interrupt? May I?
Sure.
Well, this is nothing new to me. I don't know. I mean, there's a thing called Oyawaza, application techniques. Every dojo is different. I mean, if somebody has fear, what if the guy's going to do a double leg takedown? All right, I did a little bit of wrestling. Practice that. If that, but you don't have to do BJJ to do that. I mean, what I'm seeing is, my fear of Aikido is if it morphs into this competition where you have two opponents. That's what I was referring to with Rokas. Rokas isn't even on this thing. So, I mean, okay, we're bringing him in, but
he'll be on tomorrow.
Oh, well, that's nice. But what I'm talking about is you're in agreement. When you go into a BJJ dojo, you're both in agreement. Hey, these are the rules, and this is what we're doing. Self-defense. I believe I teach self-defense in my dojo. It's how do you set boundaries? How do you get out of situations? If you have to go in irimi, go in pure irimi. Maybe it's sto, maybe it's nasty stuff that you would never do to your dojo mates. But the reason I teach it is so people get out of their fear, so they can potentially transcend fear and then go into the art of Aikido. And how I see it is the uke-nagi relationship is kind of unique. You're the defender, I'm the attacker, and then you switch so you see both sides. When we talk about conflict, that's one of the ways that you learn about conflict. Is
it really that unique though?
Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. You get to see both people's points of view. If I'm trying to wrestle you and you're trying to wrestle me, that's a very different thing. I'm trying to win. When I'm nage, I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to resolve the conflict. That's a whole different concept.
Point taken. But is it really so unique? Is it really that different than drilling with a partner? Do you do your drill arm lock 5 times, 6 times, 8 times, then it's their turn, they do it a few times, and you work with each other.
What's the emotional content that's attached with it?
Skill development.
Yeah.
It's cooperation. It's
Aikido is
Right.
beyond skill. You're having compassion for the other person.
Mhm.
So even if you have young guys that are want to go at it, that's part of the spiritual, or whatever you want to call it, the developmental practices. Can you go beyond, I have to be better than you? I mean, if you look at the 6, old sensei dealt with the same stuff. In the original dojo, there were the 6 rules. The first rule is 1 blow is capable of killing somebody. That's not, I don't believe that's a machismo kind of thing. I believe that is in real conflict.
that is the truth. That is the truth.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if people are in real life, conflict, it can be lethal. It can go that
For
way.
sure.
Why? How did martial arts start? Because people can't get along. Some way people can't get along, and then they're invading your boundaries, they're crossing your boundaries or something. So people had to come up with a way of how they could protect their families, that kind of thing. It has evolved. And the concept is, hey, let's get beyond the sport. I believe old sensei's message was get beyond the sport. It's not a sport. Yes, I agree. Yes, I'd like to increase my skills too. But does that mean I have to enter where it's me against you? No. I'll train in Aikido with any of you guys all day.
Uh-huh.
And I'll switch roles. But I'm not concerned about, am I better than Roy? Can I beat him? Can I make him tap out? Hey, let me see if I can choke him out. It's not what it's about. That's just my 2 cents.
No,
Okay, so
those are good points.
hang on just a second. So I do want to touch on what Vince said, and you know that you know the reason we have martial arts is because we can't get along. I would go even deeper, and just like on a human level, the reason we have martial arts is because we have fear. The reason we have fear is because of the self and the other. That's getting down to the bottom of it. And Aikido is attempting to make that self-other duality back into oneness. So that's the attempt of Aikido, and that's the art side of the martial, but it does it through martial. Now, our Cola here is asking to describe the resolution of conflicts. So I'm going to go to Corky, and then after Corky, we go to Lenny, okay? Corky.
Well, first of all, I wanted to touch on something I've heard about the response to different kinds of attacks. And Aikido and O-Sensei teaches us to be in advance of the attack. And that's where I think it has the greatest value in terms of what Vince is saying. We don't wait for something to happen. And I'm sure, Lenny, in your experience in the bars, you've experienced the recognition when people walk in who's going to be troublemakers or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think what Vince is getting at, and what I feel like Aikido's main strengths are the ability to influence the conflict before it escalates into violence. And when we think of Aikido this way, our practice is less about finding techniques that are going to work with every human being, because that's impossible. Because everybody's different. Everybody attacks differently, as we've agreed, and everybody has a different size and weight class and all that. But in our practice, when we are uke and nage for people, and we're learning this way, and we're learning what works and what doesn't work with our biomechanics and our intentions, then in the part of Aikido that is a cooperative thing, we learn how to interact with people on a way that starts distilling the violence, or starts de-escalating the violence from the moment the idea of the attack moves into our partner's head. And that's one of the things I love about this quote from O-Sensei, that our partner, our attacker, is out of balance the minute the idea arises in his head to attack. And with that in mind, I'm in agreement with Vince. We're never going to be able to find everything for every person, but in our training, we start to look how to influence it so the responses are actually from the attacker.
Great. So Corky, so no matter, let's say we take our martial art and we manage to control the violence by overcoming it. Yeah. Now that may stop the violence, but it will not overcome the core issue, which is fear.
Right.
It's still, it's just down there. It's around the next corner. Whenever we're operating on fear, that's always the situation. So I want to go back to Arcola. He wants to know, what is the resolution of conflict? because controlling conflict, overcoming conflict doesn't overcome fear. It builds confidence, but doesn't overcome the root cause of fear. What is it that, what is the resolution of conflict from your point of view? Then we go to Lenny.
From my point of view?
Yes.
Oh, well, I think the resolution of conflict is when you don't feel conflict anymore. I mean, that's going to be different in every situation, but it's when the aggressor basically drops the spear.
And is that the goal of Aikido?
Yeah, I believe so. Okay. I believe it's you know, the nonviolent for me, you know, but that's just my take on it.
Good.
That's what I ascend to.
Let's get Lenny's take.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what's the resolution of conflict? I mean, if Aikido is about resolving conflict, assuming you agree with that, what does that mean, resolution of conflict?
I mean, it all depends on what what your definition of conflict is. If it's on the street, if it's in the dojo. I mean, if it's a street scenario situation, I mean, this is for me personally, it's from my experiences, it's I teach this in my dojo, I teach this to my students. The only way you're going to stop violence is by violence. The only way you're going to stop somebody that is trying to do serious damage to you is you have to stop them with violence. You know, Chris Kyle, you know, God bless him, the Navy SEAL that passed away, you know, I think his motto was, despite what your mama said, violence solves everything. And that is kind of true in my opinion in a lot of ways, because it's just the way how people are nowadays. I mean, you know, Roy pointed out that he watched a video with was it, I don't know if that was a street fighting video that you saw, or Roy, it's if you Google some or you YouTube some of these street fighting videos that people are obviously recording, it's just some person that's a bystander that's watching it. When somebody gets attacked on the street, okay, like I said, I'm 46 years old. When I used to get into fights when I was a little kid, everybody has done it. You had that little, you know, your neighborhood little fight with somebody that was your friend for, you know, 10 minutes ago. And then the next day is your friend again after you get in. I mean, shit like that happens. Other people don't jump in. Nowadays, that's like the second you go down to the ground, you'll find 5 or 6 people kicking you or jumping on top of you. Okay. Where's your randori skills there? Okay. Because quite frankly, I come from an Aikikai, you know, background. I studied traditional Aikido. I've moved on to the Tenshin style of Aikido. Our randori is light years ahead of the way how the randori is done in the Aikikai, because the realism of being taken down to the ground, and you're not taken down lightly. And the purpose of that is, how do you get back to your feet? You just give up and lay down and die, it's over? Or do you fight your way back up? You do the best that you possibly can to get back on your feet. That shows somebody that in the real world is not going to give up in the street when they're attacked. They're going to fight to survive. And it's, people just don't, I mean, fights like that, people just don't fight fair. And I'm old school when it comes to that. If it's a one-on-one thing, it's me and you, Roy. That's it. Everybody else stays out. But that's not what really happens. People jump in on that. And that's when serious injury occurs and even death, because people just don't fight fair. So it's
okay, Lenny. So I totally, we got 2 questions, 2 hands are up. We'll come to those in a minute. Randall Ross and then Paul Linden. So I agree with you there. Survival for me it definitely is a bottom line for sure, but it's not the only bottom line, because if it's what's the end game there? Where does it lead to? I mean, because again, around the next corner
Survival.
is the next bar move. Survival. But are we living in the jungles? I mean, I know we are in many ways. I'm not.
Yeah, we are.
I live here. I live in Israel. Yeah. So I know what it's like to have missiles flying over the head. So I definitely get it. Yeah. But what's the end game? I mean, especially if you look at Israel, it ain't. I mean, this is like a holy war for thousands of years. What's the end game? How are we getting out of this matrix that we are boxed into?
Have them train in Aikido.
And some people are, right? Some people are getting them to train together, and that ends violence.
This person is getting them to train together. Roy Dean, let's get Roy Dean in there.
Okay, where are we at? conflict resolution.
What's the end game, man? Yeah. So okay, I agree that by that one we'll do Roy Dean, and then we're going to go to the questions. Okay.
Put
so
everybody in a cage match.
yeah. So Roy. So a bottom
Yeah.
line is survival. Yeah. When you know where the rubber meets the road, you've got to survive. But is that
Yeah, it's like it's you know that's the base. That's the base level of skill, right? And this is about fear. Well, martial arts helps you overcome fear. Not all fear, but it helps desensitize you to that fear. And then, you know, and then what you once found intimidating is no longer intimidating, and the person that would normally incite violence against you because they think you're an easy target, now they sense something different about you. And
when fear drops in you, it actually impacts the environment.
Completely, and I think that is a stronger thread of truth in our training. That's really why we train, to be able to desensitize ourselves, drop that fear level, so we can move more confidently through the world.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna open up the mic of Randall Ross. He's got a question. Randall, your mic's open.
Okay, y'all can all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with a lot of what is being said. I've been in a lot of fights in my life, so I understand the dynamics of real fights. And when I've gone over I've analyzed like the types of fights that I've been in and what kind of things got me out of those situations. And they all seem to be Aikido-esque, meaning I was able to put them into a submission hold and be able to explain myself in order to come to that conflict resolution at the time. An example, I found myself in the wrong place at the wrong time. My friend was being beat up by one of the bouncers because they thought he didn't pay for a drink.
Lenny, why were you beating on him?
That's okay, right there.
Lenny, why the hell were you beating on him? He's a good guy. He's trying to do resolution. Lenny, what the hell were you doing beating on him?
Yeah, Lenny.
I'm sorry.
That doesn't happen. Bouncers don't beat up dudes for not paying drinks. We throw them out. We don't beat you up.
Well, I'll explain.
Come on.
So as he was led away.
No. Just get to your question.
Well, it kind of, yeah. Okay, so I'll try and go quickly then. Okay, so it ended up being a
Lenny,
submission.
I'm sorry.
To get to the point, basically with those type of scenarios that I had, and plus getting into fights with family members, I wanted to get into something that didn't require bashing somebody in order to find conflict resolution, in order to get my point across or to defend myself. I didn't want to have to hurt people that I cared about, you know? So this is why I got into Aikido. But on the same token, when it comes to punches and kicks, we don't have a whole lot of baggage. So as Roy Dean was saying, you kind of have to master the situation and control the situation in order to be able to speak to the person to find that conflict resolution. But if the guy's pounding on me and I'm getting myself beat up because I'm going, oh, peace, 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 then how am I going to, be able to speak to the person and have a resolution? I'm going to be laying there all bloody. I need to kind of control the situation. Like if Rokas, for an example, were to control the MMA guy, that demonstrates the ability of Aikido without showing that we have to beat people, but at least control the situation.
You're mixing two different situations. Rokas went into an agreement with somebody, and you're talking about in a situation where you didn't have agreement, the guy's pounding on you, and you're trying to talk peace. It's just like anything in life, man. You're going to handle it differently in every single situation. I mean, don't you? If I pet my little dog, Bella, I'm going to pet it different than my friend's horse. It's just a different thing, you know? I mean,
I understand a different reaction for every scenario. You have to go with what your gut feels. But in this scenario, obviously it wasn't to beat each other. It was to just he was just sparring with him. But every time he threw a punch, he could have at least pulled off an EQ and put him down.
Why are you bringing Rokas back in here? Oh my God!
Because it's the most obvious and relevant example that we can reference.
Okay, tell you what. Okay,
that's not a good example.
Okay, so
I think it's a beautiful example without having to go, like, it's not all or nothing. It's either a life or death situation and it works, or we're talking peace. You know, I think there's a lot of middle ground to be explored.
Okay, let's go to the middle. Let's go to the middle ground. Somebody says something to me on the street, and I say, "Oh, okay, yeah, you can kick my ass. Have a nice day," and I keep walking down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the middle ground, or do I have to tap them out?
When you know that you can tap them out, then you can say.
Oh, so you know you can tap out everybody on the street. You know walking down the street, you know you can just tap out anybody.
Of course. But that comes through training. That comes through training. And that's 99.9% of the
That comes from an illusion.
It could be. But,
well, if it isn't an illusion, then man, you're going to really clean up in the business of, you know, sport fighting.
Dude, if you're just talking about regular people, but
do regular people attack
sufficiently
you?
advanced training methods,
Actually,
then it's not a problem.
Can I give you a real story? Can I give you a real story?
I
had a professional boxer
Miles,
in the dojo. And
Look,
I had a
I want
professional
guys,
boxer in the
no, wait,
dojo.
Vince, hang on, man. Look, we can go the scenarios. I'm sorry, they go on all day long. Let's stop the
Exactly.
Get down to the point.
Well, no, he said low ground or high ground or this or the, you know, ultimate
He
or
said
whatever.
middle ground. There's something between like total violence and total peace. That's the middle ground. There's something in there, and we can bring scenarios all day long. But I'm sorry, they're boring. We all got scenarios and real stories. But let's bring in another question. Paul Linden, your mic is open.
Okay, I would like to suggest that violence and force, even destructive force, be differentiated. If your purpose in Aikido is to learn compassion, not to reduce fear, but to increase compassion and thereby reduce fear, you're dealing with a very different force than if your purpose in Aikido is to learn to break arms or some other sport or some other discipline.
Great. Does anybody want to make a comment on that one?
Well, compassion definitely increases the more you train. As you have techniques applied to you and you realize the vulnerability of your own body.
Should increase. So what? So okay. In what type of what is it about our training that should increase compassion, Roy?
The vulnerability of your own joints, the vulnerability of your body, how easily you can be upset if you're off balance. All of these things should give you a little bit of humility. And that, man, if I'm in the wrong position, you know, I could totally be taken out. And there are positions where you're like, man, I'm hosed. You know, I can't get out of here. The leverage is bad. They have the upper hand. You're behind. I think all of those things increase compassion because you've had that directly. You get the direct experience applied to you.
I think compassion can be directly trained for. For example, I have Parkinson's, and if I take the Parkinson's compassionately, by deliberately being compassionate toward myself, I can function much better than if I attempted or dislike the tremors. I take the same viewpoint toward the attacker in Aikido.
Great. Listen. I want to bring in. So Paul, thanks for that. We got a bunch of hands up. So I want to move on if it's okay. But I do want to kind of just read a quote here from Donna. She says, "I am a woman. We have more fear than most men." I think that's probably true, especially in a man's world. The need to learn how to make this completely effective immediately is vital for us. I am all for training for that. I think the spiritual goes along with that strength, but I'm also from Chicago, LOL. All right, so we're gonna go over from Chicago to Russia.
Chicago.
Yes, Eugene from Russia. Eugene, what's up?
Hello to all. So I just want, I don't want to ask a question. I mostly want to share my opinion on this theme. And also I want to introduce myself. I'm second dan of Aikikai and have experience about 15 years in Aikikai. And I could already got about fourth dan, but I decided not to pass exams on dans and decide mostly because belt doesn't defend you on the street. So I just go more in details to understand each techniques in Aikido and to understand it's quite granular. And I went to the resume that some of Aikido techniques doesn't work on the street. And thus, additionally, I want to say that in the past year, I was in a seminar in Riga, in Europe, and there was a lot of people Aikikai guys, and I work with almost all of them. and I saw that people just doesn't think about how to defend them. So, for instance, if I work with them like Aika Tatatori, Shihonage, they just don't understand that they could be a second punch from other hand, and it is really it. And people sometimes just doesn't know about how to proper create a punch. So,
Right.
and
So Eugene, so that's cool. Do you have a question for the panel?
I wanted to say that the point here is that we just mostly have the old attacks, and we need to modernize attacks and to learn how to work from them.
Okay,
And,
great. So modernizing, upgrading Aikido. Who wants
Mhm.
to take that from the panel?
Yep.
Who said yeah?
I do.
Go.
Corky.
Well, if we're going to modernize Aikido to that extent, then we need to take in nuclear weapons as a form of attack.
Okay. No. Why,
Yeah,
why do you gotta
absolutely.
go there? Why do you gotta go there?
Absolutely. Well,
There we
because
go.
every time
There we
you come into a new attack, you're going to find there's new things being involved in that attack. Attacks don't necessarily come from kicks and punches. They come from all the way up the line, an escalation of violence and attack all the way up. I'm more interested in the way Aikido is going to transform the world on a geopolitical level as much as on an individual level. Because, hello?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, no. So basically, Corky's saying that there's an endless perpetuation of violence. It's the same story. We're still in the matrix.
It's an endless perpetuation of things to try to prepare for.
Okay, great. And now Roy seems to think that is not the case. Roy.
You can, I mean, I don't think you have to go extrapolate all the way out to nuclear weapons. I think you can
extrapolate.
But you can extrapolate all you can get peace on a local level. How about that? You can get peace on a local level, and you can do it.
Choke everybody out, and then you'll get peace.
Well, some people only understand the whip, and you need to physically. Some people are. You could put it differently. You could put it like some people are kinesthetic learners, and they need to be put on their back, and they need to be mastered. And the fact that you master them compassionately should inspire them and humble them and alert them to the fact that there is compassion in this world. And that's how some people learn. Some people are obviously more verbal, but I do think just shy of nuclear weapons, you can create peace in your own communities.
Okay. Cool.
But to transform the world, if the art itself is feckless and ineffective, you're going to have a tough time having your arguments heard and taken seriously.
Okay, good. So listen, so Vince, I'll let you make a comment on this. We've got some more hands up. Nathaniel Chalkin is writing some cool stuff, but Nathaniel, why don't you raise your hand? I'd rather hear your voice. Vince, and then we'll go over to Jet and Don on the question.
Well, on the traditional art, if you look at Shomanuchi, it's a vertical strike. It's a straight line. No matter how you attack, whether it's BJJ, AAA, or whatever's going on, a straight line is a straight line. Yokomanuchi is a circular attack, and a thrust is a thrust. Are people going to deliver it differently? Yes. When we're talking about real street fights, it gets gross and it's nasty. What the previous guy on the phone was talking about was self-defense. And I think that's what needs to be distinguished between what is self-defense and what is the art of Aikido. Is Aikido a martial art? Self-defense, I'm going to use principles. I'm going to keep distance, or maybe I go in and I slam the guy into a wall. I don't get in those situations these days, quite frankly. I mean, usually you see it coming if you're a martial artist. Plus the mindset of Aikido, and you're more intuitive. The mindset of Aikido is the nage, you're looking, how do you neutralize things before they even happen? And a lot of that is in the Mai. You create that kind of stuff. But once you're in a sporting mentality of two opponents, yes, you start sizing people up. Yeah, I could take him out. I think I could choke almost everybody out that I'm walking down the street with. Why not?
Okay, great.
Well, if you have time.
Well, there's There's an interesting
All right,
part of
okay,
the.
Corky. So make it short, and then we're going to go to a question on the participants.
Okay, well, has anybody read the book Aikido by Kishimaru in the 1950s? Ueshiba? Okay, well, you know, there's a section called Basic Knowledge. And in that basic knowledge section, there's 9 categories. And of those 9 categories, 7 of them are physical things like where to stand, how to turn, hand blade, things like that. 2 of them are completely esoteric, stream of spirit and spiritual strength. So if this is the book on Aikido or the original book on Aikido, without those things, then it's hard to call whatever action is coming Aikido if it's missing these 2 elements of basic instruction.
Okay, great. So it has to have the spiritual elements to be Aikido. Okay, so we go to Jet and Don from Aikido of Tampa. Hey, guys.
Hi, how are you, Miles? Great conversation. First, I want to thank Paul Linden for his quote that we should train not to reduce fear, but to increase compassion. I thought that was a great quote. And it kind of brings up my question for the panel. Of course, training martially is great. It can be. When I watched Roy Dean's videos a couple of years ago, I started taking jujitsu because they look like a great thing to do. He does it so well. It looks beautiful. It has a great vibration. It interacts with me. And I believe that whatever we train comes out in our daily life in all kinds of ways. And so when I train my Aikido practice, I'm going to train it with compassion so that when I get into a confrontation, I don't think about subduing and making aggression with aggression. If I have an argument with my wife or my boss or my son, I don't want to have that feeling. And I think my question to the panel, especially those who seem much more aggressive about this, is how do they guard against that coming into them in a way that manifests to their family members, to people they interact with, around them? I think this is a really important part.
How do they guard against the violence coming into them?
Yeah, guard against that happening
in a non what do you say, lethal combat situation.
Yeah, but just verbally, right? If someone comes at you verbally, you don't want to say you this and start arguing and you amp the situation up. That's not how. I hope that's not how any of us want to really behave, even though we see that model. But that's not what we do martial arts with.
Great. Which panelists you want to address this first?
So we can start with Lenny.
Yeah, I saw that coming. I saw that coming because I'm probably the most aggressive person on this panel when we're talking about the violence issue and martial arts as a self-defense.
But you're also a father. You're also a husband and a father. So
I have a beautiful, almost 3-year-old daughter. I love her to death. I have a great wife. She's very understanding with everything that's going on in my life and with my, small success on YouTube and whatnot. It's funny that you bring this up because I don't have this problem with my wife. My wife is the most.
Let's get her on the phone.
What's that?
I said, let's get her on the phone.
Genevieve, come here.
Right on.
I'll get her over here, no problem. She's the most non-confrontational person I've ever met. I mean, if you look at me, come here, sweetie, they want to see you.
And she comes when she's called. That's better than my wife.
Oh, God. Yeah, have a seat. So wait, everybody go, hi. They're probably not. That's Genevieve. Come here. Get over here. Get over here.
Hi, Genevieve. She can't hear us.
Can now. Somebody say something.
Hi, Genevieve.
Hey.
Hello, Genevieve.
Thanks for letting us borrow your husband for an hour and a half.
That's okay.
If it's funny because it's like people that know me, I mean, I'm Irish and German, so I have a hair trigger temper, as everybody can see. I can get very heated very quickly. This woman actually balances me out. We rarely ever argue. If we do, it's about what movie are we going to watch tonight, or what am I going to pick up for food. She's very soft-spoken. It's I got a great relationship with her. Most people are like, they would ask her, how did you get with him? It's like he's completely the opposite. I am completely
she's the Aikido-ka. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Exactly. But it's like with her, it's like we don't really, I mean, yeah, couples, husband, wife, you have your arguments and spats, but the way how we handle things, I mean, it's just, you guys would be like, this is not the same Lenny Sly that I know.
Well, that may be what my real question though is when you train in a very aggressive way and meet violence with more aggression, how does it not come out in interactions with people that you love around you? How do we go, your students, for example, or anything else, you know, like that?
How does it not come out?
Yeah.
I just don't let it come out.
Okay, though
I can control. My students. Here's the thing with me. Okay, when you want to put in the perspective students, the way how I teach my people. Okay, Aikido is a lifelong martial art. Okay, it might take some of you 10 lifetimes to be able to perform at the level that other people can perform at. Everybody has different skill sets and different learning curves and whatnot. For me, with my students, I want my students to be great yesterday, not 6 months from now. So I'm more like a coach than a sensei, because coaches train people to become champions. Okay, that's different than what a sensei is. I inspire my students. I'm very proactive with my students' training. If they're doing something wrong, I don't sit there and stare at them for 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes and wait for the correction to happen on its own, because it's not going to happen. I'll interject and I'll help them with that. You know, yeah. Do I get on my students? Yeah. Do coaches scream at their players? Yeah. Have I screamed at my students before? Yeah, I have. Sometimes, and then all my students are adults. I don't teach kids. You know, and I use a lot of my life experience as a platform to teach them and how to protect themselves and how to learn this. And the thing is, all my students know that nothing is done maliciously. I don't say anything maliciously to make them feel bad. I want them to learn. You know, like I said, my original sensei was Kevin Choate Sensei, if any of you guys know who he is. Okay, that was my sensei. I was with him for 16 years.
So keep it. So wrap this one up, because I want to go to one more question. We're getting close to the end of the time, but go ahead, Lenny.
I took my Aikido to a much different place. Choate Sensei was very laid back in the whole non-violent type of thing. Okay, I got that side of it. This was my choice to take my Aikido to this next level.
Okay, cool. All right.
Could I jump in there real quick?
One last comment, and then no rebuttal, because then I'm going to go to the next question. Go ahead, Don.
Okay, you're done.
Don, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say.
Actually, wait a second. I just want to ask Lenny to put the earbuds back in.
Yeah.
It creates an echo. Go ahead, Don.
I was going to say two things. One is I'll be in Chicago in November. I hope Lenny will come to Chicago Akikai when Salvatore Sensei is there. I'll be there accompanying him. Maybe we'll get to train together. And two is that, I don't know if you've ever heard Mary Heine Sensei, but she said something to be very powerful, which is every time you throw your partner, you change them. And that might come out. If you throw them aggressively, it might come out tomorrow where they snap at their child, or they snap at their dog, or they kick their dog or something. So we just got to keep that in mind. So
That's a great comment.
That's true.
All right, hang on. We're going to go to the next question.
Hold on, please, Miles. Back to Don and Jet. You really think that that's true?
What, that every time you throw somebody, you change them?
That you change them to the point that they might go kick their dog the next day? Do you guys know who Larry Reynosa is?
No, one way or the other.
I've been slammed by Larry Reynosa. I never came home and kicked my dog.
But it maybe came out in some other way, is all I'm saying.
The dog would bite you, that's why.
Basic karma lesson.
I've seen your dog. He's got big teeth. He'll bite you.
But you've already admitted that your Aikido is more aggressive, so it has had some effect.
It's okay, guys.
Maybe.
Moving right along. Nathaniel Chuck and your microphone. Don, Toda, thank you, man. Then Nathaniel, your mic's open.
You guys hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yep.
Hi, great conversation. To fundamentally just define the terms, I think is really important. What is Aikido? And I think every martial art is part martial and part art, but those are two different truth claims. If your truth claim is it's an art, it's a do, it's a path of development, I would say that's beautiful, and we can also look into how to take it off the mat. And if your truth claim is that Aikido is an effective form of self-defense, then why not use any technique possible to attain a nonviolent outcome? I'll invoke Bruce Bookman, who was one of the early ones who opened my mind to this, and he said, if you could use a wrist lock and break someone's wrist violently, Or you could use a technique from a different art like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Judo, a rear naked choke, for example, and peacefully attain a nonviolent outcome, then what's Aikido? What is Aikido?
Totally. Absolutely.
Well, when you have an argument with your mom, why don't you choke her out?
So for me, Vince, the beauty of Aikido is if I'm interested in centering and redirecting energy, there's some beautiful techniques that I can use for both self-reflection and communication to actually make Aikido come alive off the mat. That choking someone out, if they're tapping and I stop, it's nonviolent. Mm-hmm. What is violence? If I keep going and you're still tapping, well, I've crossed your boundary now. That's violence to me.
Well, I think old Sensei kind of designed Aikido too without chokes because it has a different kind of feeling. I mean, he didn't mount people either, you know? There wasn't a lot of mounting going on. You know, that kind of thing, you're rolling around, wrapping your legs around somebody else. You know what I mean? There was a lot less mounting in Aikido than in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever, like the wrestling stuff.
I think the Bruce Lee thing here is cool because there aren't.
What's Bruce Lee got to do with old Sensei?
No. Well, I'll tell you. There aren't cultural styles actually. Just like religion.
Yes, there are.
We've codified them, but there's really just one human body. And
there's definitely cultural styles.
Well, what I mean by that.
That's why they call it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because it's from Brazil.
Right, but if you go
sure.
Deeper.
I'm just making a slightly related point, which is if you go deeper, there's only one human body. There are 2 arms, 2 legs, and if I can use a form functionally to attain a nonviolent outcome, I know some boxers who are better Aikidoists than some Aikidoists because it's how they use it.
Great.
Can I chime in here?
You're stuck in the technique realm, though. You're stuck.
No.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. Is it's not technique. Yeah. It's how you use it.
Yeah. Right. So I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I definitely feel that I use Aikido in all kinds of. It has nothing to do with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
It's not about Jiu-Jitsu either.
It's not about Jiu-Jitsu. It's more about what Mochizuki said. Aikido applies to all things. It applies to rockets. It applies to bayonets. It applies to knives. It applies to empty hand. It's everything. And
nuclear weapons.
I was about to say nuclear weapons.
It's about blending with the nukes.
That's awesome.
Contingent to North Korea. So, but I, if I could, just want to give a small shout out to Don Ellingsworth. That was a great question. I really like his Aikido, and I definitely think bringing Aikido off the mat in conflict resolution with your family is much more about active listening. And I think Aikido teaches you how to be patient and feel through a technique and kind of feel what's going on with the other person before, you know. So I really feel Aikido can help in that, in conflict resolution within family dynamics. So.
All right, listen, I know everybody's got a lot to comment. We've got one more question. I'm going to cut it off with that. We've got 5 minutes. You know, I know people, I want to respect your time.
Miles.
I want to respect your time, but if we want to go over, it's totally cool. But we'll kind of give it like an official stop time in 5 minutes, and then if we need to go over, we can go over. Cesar, your mic is open.
Hello. All right, thank you, everybody. My name is Cesar. I'm from Houston. I teach and train in Aikido in the Houston area. I'm going to say something pretty bold. I'm going to give a challenge to everybody. So I've trained in Aikido and in other martial arts pretty much my whole life. I love Aikido, but I also like boxing. I like grappling. And it's really nice to flow with other people that way. And what I've seen more, and this is the bold part, is I see a lot more egos in Aikido than I do with grapplers. Because in grappling, you know you suck. Like, you get automatic feedback. Right. So I don't see a lot of grapplers thinking they're going to be able to kick everybody's ass. But I see a lot of Aikido people assume that their way of doing something is going to solve everything. So how do you, it's going to challenge for everybody. How do you balance your ego with your reality?
Corky.
Well, for one thing, I totally know what you're saying because I run up against things that challenge my abilities in Aikido all the time. And I get this from my students, thankfully. So I get a daily dose of it. And for me, it's not so much an answer of how am I going to always succeed every time, but how am I going to do my best? And how am I going to do my best to attain the goals that I have in Aikido, which is to find a non-violent resolution to the conflict. So I have no illusions about being the best or always coming out on top, but you know, we never shoot for being second. We always shoot for our best. We always, you know, attempt to be the best person we can be and the best, you know, warrior we can be. Vince?
Caesar, I think you're missing the point. Aikido is based on an uke-nage relationship from the context of from an enlightened dude, supposedly, right? Old sensei. The nage, in boxing, you're trying to score points, or you're trying to knock them out. You're not trying to do that. Oh, no? So Muhammad Ali wasn't trying to knock out Joe Frazier?
Cesar?
See, his mic is off.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, Cesar.
Well, it's mixed martial arts. A lot of people are mixed up.
That's basically the end goal. But how to get there is you have to flow with the person. So you can't win unless you know what you're doing.
Okay, but the end goal is totally different. How can you compare it? The end goal is totally different.
Boxing is a sport. It's not an art.
Boxing is a sport. You're trying to win.
It's also an art.
You're not trying to win in Aikido.
So why don't we just walk off the mat and have a beer?
Well, if you like drinking beer, go do that. If you get value from doing Aikido, do Aikido.
As long as there's a physical contact between one person and the other person's trying to attack me, the end goal is to put the person down. Now, how much damage I inflict on that person is all solely up to me. I can put the person down without hurting them. And to Roy's whole, idea is he can bring somebody down without Aikido, without hurting them. That's what BJJ does. So in a way, BJJ is almost achieving Aikido goal.
I don't know. Is this teleconference about BJJ or is it about Aikido?
No,
I listen to.
I would not say the end goal. The end goal of Aikido is not to put them down.
Right.
As long as there's physical contact, you have to put somebody down.
No,
right?
Not necessarily.
That
No.
might be the skillful means to get.
So let's
the
not
end
have
goal,
class.
The end goal is not to put them
Let's
down.
just not have class. Let's have a beer and talk about philosophy.
It doesn't matter
you
because
like beer
you're still
and
going
not
to find
philosophy,
conflict. If you go have a beer, you're going to find conflict, and then you're going to have to put them down.
I know that. I found conflict.
So the truth is, there are always conflicts.
Of course, there's always conflict. That's the matrix. That's the trap. Don't you see? There's a whole existential trap, and it's a prison. And Aikido is, in principle, not that any of us can do it, but in principle, it's the escape plan.
Well, that's the thing. You have to principally do it, but then in reality, you have to do it as well. Otherwise, you have a cognitive dissonance, right?
Totally.
What's reality?
That's your point was very good there, Cesar.
Well, what's reality?
Thank you.
Though? You're saying reality. What's
the
reality?
was that his point is that Aikidoka live in a fantasy land sometimes because we don't have competition.
Oh, okay. So I have to compete with everybody my whole life to know that I know reality.
Well, I think you're kind of competing. You're kind of competing right now. So what's
no? I'm talking about you're comparing boxing to Aikido.
I'm comparing everything to Aikido because it's supposed to be relatable, right?
Okay, cool. So we're going to stop there. Listen, I'm going to Cesar, awesome question, awesome comment. I'm going to close your mic. I'm going to say to everybody, if you have to leave, thanks for coming. It's been awesome. This will be posted online. Hopefully in 2 days, I'm going to do my best. We're going to continue this conversation. If anybody has to go, goodbye. We love you. If anybody wants to stick around for this this boring chat, then you're very welcome. Roy Dean, what's your comment?
Boy, I have experienced quite a bit of that myself. Inflated egos and never get pressure tested in their technique. And look, it's true. A lot. I mean, there are grapplers with huge egos. There are grapplers with huge egos. Part of it is that stage of development where they have the skill set, they have the map mapped out for them. They're young. They haven't broken their body that many times yet, so they're kind of. Me personally, I have guys that can beat me at my dojo, but you gotta be pretty expert. But there are guys that can do that.
But
absolutely.
That's what that's about.
And every day is a different day. I mean, on any given day. And big and strong is still big and strong. So once you get crushed like that, that. Once you have your, like, man, that was not good. You know, once you get worked over a little bit, it definitely humbles you. And when you get the highs of tapping people out easily, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Well, it's all
So
about
I
alpha
definitely
tone.
feel that BJJ can deflate, not entirely, but it can help deflate the ego in a way that Aikido kind of artificially inflates.
Okay, good. Good point. All right, so let's go to Lenny, and then we're going to go to a question. There's one more question from Arcola. Lenny.
Okay.
Egos can hide out in Aikido.
It's you know, I have no problem admitting I have an ego. Okay.
No.
Imagine that. It is. I came clean. I have an ego. The difference is, one of my past teachers and would always say, he'd always talk about ego, and he's like, that's the first thing that has to improve is the ego. And the funny thing is, he was the one that had the biggest ego of them all. And myself and several other people, Terry Kessler and a handful of other people that trained under him, we all totally got that from him. But the thing is, we also got that he was the one that had the biggest ego of them all. You know, believe it or not, my ego is nowhere near as close to his. You know, but you know, I don't know. It's hard for me to even really explain it, because my ego isn't really about like having like bad intentions ego. I just, you know, just from my life experience in itself, you know, not too many people have experienced what I've experienced, you know, in the Aikido world that are Aikidoka that spent that many years doing what I did. But that was my choice to do that type of work. You know, it's just, I don't know. If you serious, I mean, I asked Kevin Choate once, okay, a long time ago, and yeah, it was in a bar, and we were having a beer, and the first beer that I ever had legally at the age of 21 was Kevin Choate Sensei bought me that beer. You know, I had alcohol prior to that. What teenager hasn't done that? But my first beer at legal age was bought by Choate Sensei, and I asked him, and I said to him, Sensei, have you ever used your Aikido? And I was already a bouncer then at that point. Have you ever used your Aikido in real life? Have you ever had to use this? And he's holding his beer, and it's like, you know, the wine tasting beer. It's like, you know, the pinky's out, and he just looks at me with his eyes, doesn't even turn his head. He said, no. He said, no. But the weird thing about it was, at that point, I knew that he respected me enough to tell me that he didn't feel ashamed, or he didn't feel embarrassed to say that I've been doing Aikido since whatever, 1980, 1977, 79, whatever, that I've never had to use this ever. He did not come across to me like he was embarrassed or anything like that, because he knew I had a great relationship with Kevin Choate Sensei, and I don't think I've cried as hard as I did the day that I found out that he passed away on December 1st of 2012. I cried harder when he died than when my father passed away in 1996, because that man pretty much raised me. As a martial artist, he raised me. I learned a tremendous amount from him. I really did. But I went down a different path. You know, I was seeking. I was searching for something else, and I found it. And this is my journey is to, I want to be able to, I created this YouTube channel, and I do the videos that I do because I want to be able to help people that are Aikidoka that could be Q rank Aikidoka or Shodans or Nidans, or, you know, I've gotten a lot of messages from people about, you know, I can't ask my sensei to show me something practically, you know, or can you show me this? You know, a lot of Aikido sensei, from what I've been seeing lately, really don't want to touch that. They're all about preserving those sensei's form, and you know, and I get that. But what I do with the YouTube channel is I do what I do. It's my expression of my Aikido, to try to help others. And
Lenny, you certainly found your voice, I must say, and it's obvious because you're rocking it on YouTube that you're you got a big audience. So let's go to Arcola and see. He's had his hand up for a while. Arcola, you there?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Well, actually, I just wanted to propose a question to the panel itself, keeping in mind the subject of tonight's event here is Aikido, a martial art.
Right.
So the question being, with all the Aikido training you guys had, do you feel that it can help you in a life and death situation? And if not, why even train in Aikido?
That's a great question.
Yeah, ask the DJJ guy.
Apologies for chiming in first. I do feel that there are techniques that are useful. I mean, as Vince was talking about the vectors of attack, whether it's straight, I think it could be useful in some situations. But I feel that given the way that I was trained, and I trained diligently, I feel given the way that I trained Aikido, there's still a gap. There would still be a gap against a skilled fighter where I don't know if I will be able to apply it. But I do feel that it would certainly add to my arsenal in a life and death situation, for sure.
Can I chime in for 1 second, Roy?
Sure. We'll go to Lenny and then we'll go over to Corky.
Okay, to also say something about, we're talking about a life and death situation, okay? We're not talking about a life and death situation in a sport arena. This is a life and death situation on the street.
Correct.
I am speaking from 1,000,000% experience. I have never, ever in my life have gotten into an altercation with anybody that was MMA trained, a karate and black belt, a karate and judo, a boxer, a kickboxer. Why? Because all of those people are the same as us. We're all disciplined and controlled, and we don't go out and start fights. So this whole shit that everybody talks about, Aikido and other martial arts, fighting other martial artists, okay? It's never happened in my 23 years of being a bouncer. It's never happened. People need to get their head out of their asses.
It's YouTube sport bullshit.
Thinking that shit happens in the real world. Okay, Joe Rogan. Okay, I love Joe Rogan's show. I think he's a great comedian. But his thing about, there's guys out there that are trained killers. They go out there and start shit. Really? Where? It would be all over the freaking news.
You go to jail.
I've never gotten into a fight with another person that was a skilled martial artist because those people are trained. They're disciplined.
Yeah, but alcohol changes a lot of things. I mean, one of my students was a bouncer, huge guy. He used to be a Navy SEAL. He got tackled.
He was a Navy SEAL and then he became a bouncer, or was he a bouncer and then became a Navy SEAL?
He was a Navy SEAL, then he became a bouncer. He was tackled.
That doesn't make sense.
Double leg tackle through a plate glass window.
Why would a Navy SEAL become a bouncer? That doesn't make sense.
It was what he chose to do.
Okay, so what's your, but let's get to the point. What's your point?
No. I mean, he was double leg tackled. I'm just giving one scenario. He was double leg tackled through a plate glass window. So number one, yes, trained people do get attacked.
How do you know that guy was trained? Maybe he was just some Joe douchebag that saw
Dude, what's the difference between...
Come on.
He knew enough to drive through a guy.
Okay.
He knew enough to drive through a guy.
That doesn't mean that trained.
Well, if somebody tackles you, you should know how to defend against it.
All right, let's go. Lenny, we lost your mic, man. We can't hear you. You broke the
Miles, may I
internet,
comment,
Lenny.
or am I
No.
being
We're gonna go to. Hang on. We're gonna go to Corky because he hasn't had a chance. Then we'll come back to you, Vince. Okay. So Corky.
Okay.
Oh, can you review the question again,
I'll go
please?
last.
What was the question about life or death situations?
Yeah, I was saying that with all your Aikido training, do you feel that it can help you in a life and death situation? And if not, why even train in Aikido?
Oh yeah, I think definitely it can. And there have been incidents in my experience that they weren't deadly, but I feel that they might have been under different circumstances. And yeah, absolutely.
All right, great. Vince.
So the question was, why do you train it? Will it help you in a life or death situation? Well, when I'm training with a 90-pound woman in my class, I'm just trying to bring it real. I'm not in a life or death situation. When I'm training with a 250-pound man in my dojo, it's not a life or death situation. But if it's on the street, again, we're going to the hypothetical, you do what you have to do to survive. And there'd have to be a pretty good reason why I'm going to fight somebody to the death. If I'm walking with my wife and some drugged out freak attacks my wife, I don't know what I'll do. I might rip off a post office box and slam it through his eye socket. I don't know. Who knows?
It would be helpful if you had trained that at least once before, though.
What's that?
It would be helpful if you had practiced that technique at least once before so you could execute it in a pressure situation.
Well, I was referring to you. I know that you go around getting mailboxes and test that out. That's what I was referring to, Roy. But I train in Aikido. Why train in Aikido? Yeah, okay. The distance, using the use of force, that kind of thing. That's always there, but that's kind of gross stuff. I don't get attacked usually. I've been in situations where, yeah, there's drunk, stupid people fighting over the same woman. I walk away. If they're going to grab usually my wife, we don't really drink. So, I mean, it's all relative, I guess, to who you're hanging out with. And I'm not a bouncer. So, I mean, but I train in Aikido to open up as a human being. And I'm training with all kinds of people. I train in the little kids class. I train with teenagers. I train with everybody. And it's not a combatant situation anyway. I mean, it's an uke-nage relationship. That's what I think one of old sensei's geniuses was. He didn't go the Mochizuki route because he didn't want competition, because we already have that stuff. If I'm going to get in there and try to win, I'm going to try to win at all costs. And that's a different mentality. That's a different way of looking at conflict.
Okay,
I'm not against all sports or BJJ or whatever. I am against people changing the basic structure of Aikido, though.
Okay,
if we
great.
lose the uke-nage relationship, I think Aikido will disappear. And it'll just become some other martial art.
Okay, I agree with that. Let's go to Paul Linden. Paul, your mic's open.
I think one of the things, being obsessive, as I've said, about language, we're not talking about Aikido. We're talking about your Aikido and your Aikido and her Aikido and his Aikido. And they don't necessarily have to have the same purpose or the same function. If you are training to be calm and kind under attack, that you can apply every day. And all of life is a life and death situation. That's different from training for combative force. Violence, I think, is the urge to hurt. Force, destructive force, doesn't need to be violent if it's done with respect and kindness.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's Roy's point, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I really feel something that came to me a little while ago was, everyone's thinking, well, if it's time to be hard, it's, be hard. And Aikido's soft is never soft. Soft is just hard enough. Right. Soft is just hard enough, right? So being able to, short of putting posts in somebody's eye, you can be soft, but be able to control the situation and scale it to whatever needs to.
And then you can also say that hard is not being softer than necessary.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
And underneath,
you can go overboard, but yeah.
Underneath, whether your muscles and your movements are hard and soft, is your spirit. What do you wish to do to this other person?
That's the point. That's the whole point of this conversation for me and Corky and Paul. I don't know about the others, but maybe Vince do. And yeah, well, I don't want to assume you guys.
Yeah, my experience has been different. My experience is that non-violence really squashes violence. That violence is a part of the attack, but it doesn't have to end in violence. And when it doesn't end in violence, it's a glorious thing. And I'd rather practice for the best thing that can happen rather than, second level best.
By violence, do you mean forceful, destructive movements?
Yeah, the intention to damage or coerce.
That I think is very clear. That's how I would define violence, and it gives you a target, gives you something to practice towards.
Great, great, great. Paul, thank you very much. We're going to go. We got one more question, and then we're gonna have to start to wrap this thing up. Believe it or not, Nathaniel, your mic's open.
Miles, I'm ready to go all night.
I've got students coming in about 15 minutes for morning class. It's.
I had to cancel my class. Kiss my ass.
4:45 for
Kiss
Miles
my ass, Miles. Keep going.
Oh, Corky, you're here in Europe. I forgot. No, it's a 5:45
That's
for me. I'm a little.
Oh, it's 6. Oh, yeah, you're an hour ahead of me. Yeah.
Nathaniel.
So I have two questions. One is if any of us felt thrown off center or triggered during this call, and it really, if I perceived enemies or if I attacked or I defended, do I really have a way of dealing with that off the mat? Do I take my Aikido off the mat? And then the second question is, there seems to be a black and white thing going on here.
Is that a question or a statement?
Well, I'm curious what people's practices are, so that was a question. And then the second thing is there seems to be a black and white perspective going on here about either I do Aikido or I'm in competition or I'm a fighter who has violent intent. How many people on this call, if there were a way to bring aliveness and live training into their Aikido, would want something like that?
It is. We do practice that way.
Well, let me define aliveness with a alive
competition, right?
No, actually not. So we can maintain the
developmental edge.
Yes, we can maintain a Nage-Uke relationship, where as Nage, my intent is to control someone without hurting them. And I can have Uke change and use just more modern ways of attacking.
Why not?
It's fun.
Totally down, 100%.
And this was my experiment for years, so I'm open to if other people have experimented with that as well.
Well, how'd that go for you?
Yeah, Daniel, thanks.
You want me to answer that? No?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, sure.
So the unlocking move for me was that if you clinch first and you tie up with someone, there's a lot more Aikido available. And I also ultimately found that a lot of it didn't work.
Okay, wait, translate that for me. If you clinch first and you tie up with somebody.
Yeah, so when you see two boxers fighting and they start hugging, that's the clinch. It actually stops them from striking each other.
Right.
Because they're tired.
Yeah.
From inside of there's a lot of interesting, I can find Nikyo, I could find Sankyo, there's Kotegaeshi. If you put someone on one leg, there's a Riminage.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. And a lot of it started looking like old school judo because that's how judo evolved.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Okay, so we does anybody one person on the panel making a comment? Anybody want to?
I'll make a comment.
And thanks, Nathaniel. I'm gonna
thank you.
The art's not based on that. The first move, Taino Henko, you move, the guy's coming out with a razor sword. When he cuts down, you move off the line and get out of the way, and then there's the next guy coming. The whole art was basically designed that way. You're supposed to be thinking about multiple attackers too. So if you go in and clinch, the second guy is going to get you. I mean, I was going to try to say earlier, we had a professional boxer that was training in the dojo for a while. He wanted to work on his footwork, and he was at a local nightclub, and he trained. So he's training the MMA guys, so they're doing jiu-jitsu and stuff. Well, a guy starts with him because he was a local celebrity. He takes him down, goes to choke him out, and the guy who he's choking out, buddy, comes over, kicks him in the jaw and shatters his jaw, and that was the end of it. I mean, so you're going into the clinch. It's the same mentality. Aikido's not based on that.
Your mic's open, Nathaniel.
Again, you're saying Aikido is not based on that, and you're making a truth claim about what works. If someone were to come at me with a razor sharp sword, I'd have to test that and see what worked, and then I would have a form that was functional.
Go out and try it.
That's what I've done for years. So I've actually run scientific experiments through alive resisting opponents to see which forms are functional.
So when they came at you with a razor sword, you were resisting them?
Well, I'm just saying I don't think based on my rational sensibility of which forms are functional, I don't know that Taino Henko would be the first technique.
Self-defense. Well, I'm saying get off the line. Self-defense transcends rationality. People do crazy ass shit. There's people that never did any self-defense or any martial art that have survived all kinds of crazy situations.
I mean it in a very specific way. I just meant rational in the sense of something.
Well, you're trying to fit it into a pattern of how you're training. So it's a sport mentality.
Well, it's a functional scientific mentality.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay.
I hear you.
Right?
So we're using. So Roy, yeah. Go ahead.
I hear you. No. I hear you. It's good. Applying scientific method. Hey, there's failure there. Oh, that worked. Let's remember that. I think that's strong, and I think that gives you real confidence. And I don't think it's against the philosophy of Aikido. It might be against one packaged form of it, but in terms of the spirit of the art, and in terms of the application of the art, I think it's quite in line with philosophy.
Great.
Well, they never had judo. When O Sensei was around, they never had judo. It got invented after he was around.
Ooh, that is incorrect, my friend.
I know it's
with all
O Sensei did judo. Why didn't he train that way? There was a reason.
Okay, great. Let one middle of the call. So listen, I got a question for the panelists. Now it's my turn to ask a question.
Yes.
If you had to put them both, and you have to choose, which one is more important for you in a conflict situation? Controlling and defeating, or no, in the matrix, you're in the matrix, yeah? What's more, becoming a master in the matrix of martial arts, or getting out of the matrix? Getting beyond fear, not beyond fear through confidence, but actually get beyond fear. Which is more important to bottom? Is your bottom line survival, or is your bottom line liberation? Corky.
Well, I don't think there's any getting away from fear. Fear is a really quick response.
For who?
To.
Wait a second. For who?
Pardon me?
Self. There's no getting away from fear for the self.
Oh no. I'm talking about the human being as a biomechanical entity. And fear is built into the limbic system.
But the ego is built into the mind. So
well, I'm just saying, just establishing as a baseline that fear's there.
Okay.
And that what I practice for is the transcendence of that fear.
Yes. So which is more important to you, to survive or to transcend the fear?
Transcend the fear.
Roy.
Because the survival is in that.
It's all about survival. I can't get to transcendence without survival. That's a later stage. I'm working towards it. I'm all about survival.
Great. Vince.
Well, I think that's a lower level survival. I mean, I don't want to live my life in fear. And so, I mean, that's like in a dojo setting, if we're talking about is Aikido a martial art, to go back to the original question. You teach people self-defense. Some people don't want to do any of it. Some people are there for different reasons in the art of Aikido. But for people that do have fear, you teach them how to get out of situations. They can do it all night until their heart's content. I don't really have that many people that want to do Aikido for those reasons. They're there for usually different reasons.
So which is it for you?
Once you get,
for you.
Who wants to live in fear? Yeah, I mean, okay. Hey, if he chokes me out and I die, or who gives a crap? I mean, I don't have an attachment to that kind of stuff. It's
okay. So liberation is the bottom line for you over survival.
Yeah, if I want to have a vibrant life. Yeah, I don't want to walk around like looking over my shoulder everywhere I go and be a paranoid type of person.
Right.
Lenny Sly. Is Lenny with us still? Hang on, Lenny. Where's Lenny? Anybody see Lenny? There he is. Oh, Lenny, I'm sorry, man. I don't know how that happened. You can't. What's going on? It's not working. Your mic is open. Yeah, shit. Yeah, something on your end. Maybe unplug your.
Can anybody lip read? Who can lip read?
Okay, now you're good.
Nathaniel?
Lenny.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay. I'm with Roy. It's always been about survival for me. You want to talk about, overcoming your fears, learn how to survive first. That builds confidence, being able to deal with situations. Survival is where it's at. Because if you can't survive, then you're never going to overcome your fears.
Great.
Have to survive first.
Awesome. Awesome. Guys, I got one last question for you. I'm asking everybody who's in the teleconference. As teachers, what is your #1 training tip for somebody to keep their Aikido at the leading edge? Lenny, why don't you start?
Oh, come on. What's it?
Only one, your #1 training tip to keep their Aikido at the leading edge.
Don't ever quit.
Awesome. Great.
That's a good one.
Corky.
I would say be authentic in your training.
Awesome. Vince.
Yeah, what is Aikido a martial art? So art's different for everybody. So understand why you're training, know why you're training, and work to develop it.
Great, man. Roy Dean.
Failure is insightful.
That's a good one.
Boom. Hey, guys. Roy Dean, Vince Salvatore, Corky Quakenbush, Lenny Sly. Thank you all very much. We had 70-something people on this call. 55 are left. They stuck around for the end of the call. This has been, I think we broke the internet on this one. We definitely broke Lenny's microphone for a little while. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Well done. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Miles.
Much respect.
Thanks, Lenny. Thanks, Roy. Thanks, Vince.
Well done.
Bye.
All right, guys. Looking forward to the conversation. Take care. All the
Yeah,
best.
thanks.
Wait. Tomorrow, just a quick announcement. Tomorrow we have 3-4 sessions. First, we're opening up with Christian Tissier Sensei. So if you're around for that one, please join. Hang on, Christian Tissier Sensei. Then David Shaner Sensei, An Unlikely Story. The third will be a panel discussion on O Sensei Revisited, Bob Doe, Jack Water, Richard Moon, and Patrick Cassidy. And the fourth one is an Aiki discussion between myself and Blaine Fayen on is the Uchideshi system still relevant in today's world? Guys, thank you all very much. Love you. Take care and keep your Aikido at the leading edge. Boom.
Thanks, everyone.
Brothers.
Bye.
See you.
Take care.